Welcome to the Def Martell Show. Today, we're here with Chef Hari Cameron, extraordinaire. We're going to talk about food, facts, family, and how to kick Bobby Flay's ass. Let's do it. For those of us who've been living under a rock, not on this planet, outside of our universe, who are not familiar with you or how amazing you are, give us some background.
Man, you're too kind. I've been a chef for over 20 years. I'm in the Mid-Atlantic right now, Rehoboth Beach, Delaware, and I love food. I love people. I have a love for people, which is not every chef loves people, you know. But for me, it's like culture, it's art. I love to take raw ingredients and make something beautiful out of them, and then like serve them to people, give people that love, which is a good thing. And yeah, so I've had restaurants. Now I'm a consultant. I've done film, writing, designing things, representing things. So it's kind of, I'm in a cool place in my life. After 20 years of being handcuffed to the stove, I get to be free to create now. So it's a great thing.
Food is art.
Yeah.
Art is food.
Food is
People
love.
tend to forget that. Food is love, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, breaking bread is what it's all about.
There's only one thing in life that's more intimate than sharing a meal with somebody. Only like maybe one or two things.
Maybe just one or two?
One or two things more intimate, but like really when we eat things, they become us. They become a part of us on every level, for our bodies, energy-wise, everything. It's all like you put things in you, and you put good things in, you get good things out. And that's like, I've always been about that.
We
So,
literally are what we eat.
For sure.
Food builds community. You know, breaking bread was one of the greatest ways that you could even broker a treaty. So we're going to jump right into it, and you tell us what you're doing today.
Yeah, what
You know,
we're doing today.
We're doing it.
cooking.
Hey,
Yeah.
I'm hands-offing. I'm
Yeah.
totally being a sous chef today.
Okay, awesome.
So guide me.
So today we're gonna make a pasta, and it's gonna totally celebrate the season. You know, it's like summertime. Have you made pasta before?
I have not.
You've not? Okay. So there's two ways to make pasta. You know, if you're doing it at home, you're using more water and you're using your hands, and flour and water, sometimes eggs, and that's kind of handmade pasta. You can make sheets of pasta, you can cut it, you can fill it, do different things. This machine is called a pasta extruder, and you mentioned Bobby Flay. Bobby overcooked his pasta. He burnt his breadcrumbs. I was talking a lot of trash. I was like, yo, Bobby, what are you making? Mushroom risotto over here? It was battle mac and cheese. He had a lot of, you know, it was like brown mac and cheese. Hey, it's all good. Each to their own, you know. But this is a pasta extruder. This works with flour and water. The first pasta extruders were hand crank ones. And for every pasta extruder, you need Archimedes screw. And what this does is it turns the pasta, it mixes it, and it puts pressure on this die plate.
Gotcha.
And it makes the different shapes.
Now, the other question, you know, I'm a scientist by trade. So
Yeah, excellent.
water specifically. How does your source of water affect your pasta?
Yeah. So water is an activator of gluten, okay? And people think of gluten like, oh, what's gluten? You know, like gluten-free. They think of all these words. But if your water is too basic, you know, like water 7. Yep. So if your water's too basic, it will actually make your noodles stretchier and chewier. Like if you're making ramen noodles, you actually purposely add consway or baking soda into them, and what it does is it makes it more basic. It makes your noodles more chewy and more dense. You don't really want acidic water, and really you just want whatever water you're drinking. You know, it needs to be a nice clean water, but
Gotcha.
Water is flour is a milled starch. We can make, you know, at our fast casual Grandpa Mac, we make gluten-free noodles. Even we have a separate machine that makes gluten-free noodles as well, but this is semolina flour. It's a fine milled hard wheat, and then this is water. When you're making pasta by hand, you have to go with like a 50 or 60% hydration rate. This is a 30% hydration rate. So as soon as we make this pasta, it's going to be, you know, cook in a minute. It's fresh, but it also won't stick together. It'll be like, and you can't, 30% hydration, you couldn't get that done with your hands. Your hands just don't have that. And so what we're going to do is like, usually you have to make pasta, make the dough, let it rest for 30 minutes, and then roll it out. But for this, it'll mix very, very quickly in here. So I'm gonna assemble the machine. This is the mixing arm. Put that on here.
So now you've done tons of these interviews.
Yeah.
You've been on TV a million
A
times.
few times, yeah.
What's the worst snafu you've had during an interview?
Oh man, it's always the live ones. But just like the show must go on every time.
Gotta go.
There's no snafus. There's just pivots. You just got to pivot. So I guess I was probably on a DC, like a Fox, like an affiliate station, news, and I was making a pasta like this, and I didn't let it mix enough, and it started extruding, and it was like clogging up this, and I had to really quickly like take it off and like put another dye on, because like this, we soak these things in water, and the shape, so it was bad for a second, but I was like, but you don't let them see you sweat ever,
exactly.
Because like, hey, it's just food, and like I think that I take everything seriously, like I really care about what I do, but at the end of the day, we're feeding people, and it's like, hey, I just took that dye off, it was getting clogged up, I mixed it a little bit longer, we're just gonna do a different shape. Today we're gonna make a shape called Mafalde or Mafaldine. This is a shape that was made for the Queen of Italy at the time, and its shape's supposed to mimic either the ruffles in her dress or her crown. And I really like the shape because it's a long shape that waves, and it really catches the sauce really nice. So what we do is we put, this is the collar, the dye ring, put that on there.
How boss is that when we make pasta that is literally designed to look like what we wear? That's some boss stuff.
Yeah, I think it's cool. Like, I think the history of all pastas are cool, and like, if you look at so many different cultures, dumplings, pastas, if they had flour and water, it was a bread or it was a pasta or just different kind of noodles. So I'm gonna have you put the flour in here. This is 500 grams of flour.
Because it's a science.
You got it,
right?
because it's hydration rate. So 30% hydration.
Going all in, right?
Go all in.
Going all in?
Yep.
Okay, going all in.
You got it.
Boom.
Perfect. So the one rule of this machine is that you never, ever extrude it. You never push it out when it's dry, because it'd be like putting dry concrete through a garden hose or rip it up. It'll mess it up. So now we're going to hit the mixing button right here. You're going to hit the green button.
I do.
Mixing.
That's a button. That's a button, people.
You're good, okay? And I'll pour the water in. And what we're going to do is, like, again, if we were making regular pasta, it would take 10 minutes to bring the dough together.
Now, how much pasta can this thing make?
So this is a smaller machine. It's kind of like a home machine. Like, I take this one into schools when I teach kids and stuff. But this one makes 5 to 7 pounds an hour. It's all depending on what shape of pasta you're making. Some shapes come out faster. Some shapes are smaller. So it's just... So right now, if you look inside here, what's happening is the flour and water are mixing together, and the auger's going this way. And it has a cool feature so that you don't accidentally hit, and so you have to hit this button and this button at the same time, and that will make the extrusion go up. So you mentioned just kind of okay. Oh, nice. I like that. Okay, so now we'll test the pasta. What we'll do is, if we make the pasta, see how it doesn't really look like pasta yet, but if it's coming together, that's how you know it's right. When it comes down, it crumbles nice.
It's crumbly, so like a pie crust.
Yeah, like a crumble, a streusel, strudel, all that stuff. Like, so right now, the dough's coming together, so it's hydrating.
How much would one of these set someone back who is just trying to get into pasta making?
Understand. So you can get different extruders. An extruder is not the easiest way. If you want to get into pasta making, flour and water, make it by hand. This extruder, the company calls it the grandfather clock, because if you buy it, you're going to pass it down to your generations and generations. But
gotcha.
This one right here is the smallest model they make. I work with a couple companies that make pasta machines, import pasta machines, make the parts. This one's about $2,000.
So what I'm hearing is that the cost is, the price looks like a social security number.
Well, $2,000 is not bad. I mean, some people spend a lot of money on different things. It's just where you invest your money.
Yes.
So you were asking me about education before.
Yes. What are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm in a good place right now for education. I'm training people around the country on different things. I was just at the 3 Michelin star restaurant called the Inn at Little Washington, and I was giving a class on dry aging, like the aging of meats and maturing things, and it was amazing. The famous chef Patrick O'Connell, he came and sat into my class, but I'll be teaching a cocktail beverage class this fall. We'll be infusing flavors and doing different things. Like, I can actually take an oyster and under vacuum internally infuse it, which is cool. And I'll be doing that with a lot of people. And then I give classes everywhere. I'm giving an essence class in Colorado soon about like where flavor comes from. But then here locally, I have a new space, which is a test kitchen. I've partnered with Touch of Italy. It's called the Chef's Table at Touch of Italy. And it's really great. I just gave a sold out gnocchi making class, handmade gnocchi, where 25 people came and made gnocchi, and we do bourbon dinners there, wine dinners, or just celebrating farmers.
Now, how can people get into that space? How can people get into, join the classes or just come and sit and enjoy what you're doing?
Yep. So if you go to the chefstable.de.com, you can see our lineup of events coming up. We give 3 different kinds of classes. You cook sometimes. You're not always the cook. Maybe you want to sit and watch the show, get a demonstration, eat, drink, have a good time. That's one level. And then we give a class that's like a class. People can come up and participate, and then we give full hands-on. Nice. So it's like however deep you want to go into it. And like when I give a class, especially to people locally, no matter where you are in your culinary journey, whether you cook every day or you're new to it, I really want to have everybody take things home with them, take knowledge. And like to me, a recipe is one person's roadmap to success, but in cooking, we always need to be able to pivot. It's more important that we cook with ratios than we cook with recipes. Because if we can understand, okay, this is how we can do it, and we can sub out our own thing, we can make it our own, we can cook for our bodies how we need to cook and different things.
Now, are you, I went to ICE one time and did a pastry course and kind of sat back, watched, and participated.
Yeah.
And are you a chef who believes that if you can read, you can cook? Or are you a chef who believes that it is one part, understanding and another part passion? How do you see it?
I think everybody can cook, and I think everybody should cook. I have 3 young boys, and people say, "Hey, do you want your kids to be chefs?" And I'm like, no, I want them to be happy. But here's the thing about life: everybody has to eat, and everybody has to love and care for people. When we cook for people, we're caring for them. So for me, anybody can cook, and I think that like the more that I cook, the older I get, the more I see it's like use the best ingredients you can afford.
Absolutely, yeah.
And like prepare it simply, season it. But I think anybody can cook. I think it's like, especially when you cook with somebody, it's like, I think a lot of times in our society, we've lost this kind of tradition of like people's grandmoms or moms passing these things down. And I think that like these oral histories, these cooking histories are so important. I think that everybody can cook because it's like, can everybody cook puff pastry dough? No, that takes a long time to laminate the dough. Can everybody make everything? No, everything's not for everybody, And like if you want to do it, that's where the passion comes in. Then you have to learn, read, put the work in. But like eating is a simple thing, You can like my favorite thing growing up was like to go in the summertime into our garden. Like depending on where we live, sometimes I live in the city, sometimes I live in the country. But
very farm to table.
Yeah, I love to just take a fresh tomato, slice it up, little salt, pepper, mayonnaise on white bread. I think that was is that cooking? Well, yeah, we're taking it, we're seasoning it, but cooking doesn't have to be complicated. It can be simple and beautiful, and like as long as we're seasoning things. Okay, so this dough is ready. We're gonna start extruding it now. So this is what we're gonna do. We're just gonna mix it again, just add a little bit more water.
Bloop, bloop.
I don't want to add too much because I really don't. I think it's really, really close. And sometimes what happens is the moisture kind of sits around the sides as well. So I don't want it to be overhydrated, but it needs to be that perfect hydrated to give me that beautiful, perfect shape. And that's where it's like art and science. You need to, you can use a ratio, but you always need to just use your senses when you're cooking. That's the best way you can cook. Use your ears, your eyes, your nose, all your senses,
And chefs, you guys never worry about digits. I know my mom can literally touch a vat of hot grease as she's flipping things over.
Oh, yeah.
No concern for digits.
I always call them asbestos fingers. I got asbestos, I pick hot things up. And when you cook a lot, it just happens. It's just occupational hazard, part of it,
We call them old black lady hands.
Oh, that happens too. And that's what I always say. I'm like, measure with your heart, How much is a teaspoon? When it's right, You're like, shh. All right. So we're going to push it out again. Okay, this should be perfect.
Coat on. I'm feeling sexy. What are we doing?
All right, our pasta's done. Looks beautiful. Like I said, the waves are like, do you see it? You see the dress? You see the hair, the crown, all that. So pasta's ready. Now we'll look at our vegetables, okay?
Ooh, what we got?
in summertime, I think that it's best to like cook simply, use great ingredients. So today what we'll do is corn. Now people always say, hey Hari, how do you make sure the corn is good? Like when you're picking it, when you look at it, you want to make sure so corn, as it ages, all the sugars turn to starches. So you want to get the freshest corn possible so it's nice and tender and sweet. But if you look at these, like the corn silk, if you know it's still wet, you notice it's like, if you still have some moisture on the outside, that's how you know it's good. So we're gonna
no moldy corn.
No moldy corn, nice, firm, good corn. So we're gonna use some corn today. Set that there for a moment. The next thing we're gonna use in this pasta is jalapeno. And we're not gonna use the seeds. We don't want it to be super hot, but we just wanna give it a little bit of back spice, a little so you know what's going on. We don't wanna burn anybody's palate, but a little jalapeno. Of course, in summertime,
heirloom
tomatoes are king. You know, these tomatoes I just picked yesterday. I was actually up in Dover at my friend's house. He's like, hey, you want to pick these out? I'm like, yes, I do. I'm going to use them tomorrow. So, and then garlic. Garlic is an interesting ingredient. The more you chop garlic, the spicier it'll get. There's a chemical called allicin. Yeah. And so what we'll do is we'll use 1 garlic clove. We'll put a nice smash on it. I'll show you how to do that in a moment. And olive oil, use a really good olive oil. We're not really frying this hard. This is a really simple sauce of olive oil, a little bit of pasta water, and our vegetables, the juice from the vegetables. That's really what this pasta is going to be about. So use a really good olive oil because, and then...
Don't use fakes because sometimes they will say olive oil, but it will be cut with some kind of weird...
Yeah, the olive oil can be a really,
oil.
really shady business. It's like controlled by mafia around the world. And so really what you do is you want to make sure you can find the point of origin for your olive oil. Honestly, if it says California olive oil, they're growing some really beautiful. I've worked with a couple companies out there, and California has some really strict regulation on it. So Parmigiano Reggiano,
beautiful,
the king of cheeses, hard, beautiful. A little bit of that.
Now, chef, do you like to use your rind when I know sometimes when I'm cooking, I love to use my rind.
100%. So I save all my rinds, because I'll put them in stocks. Mm-hmm. I've made Parmesan oil out of them to garnish other dishes. They have so much great flavor. I've even infused them into alcohol for a cocktail before, for like a kind of a salty tomato water cocktail. Yeah, that's a good one. So now we have our vegetables. We'll start getting ready. The other thing we'll do is we have to talk about our pasta water. You want your pasta water to be seasoned.
Ocean.
Well, so the ocean's 3.5% salt.
Yes.
We need 1% salt. So people say as salty as the ocean. You don't want it that salty, but this is half of a cup per gallon is what we want to do for 1%. So what that means is because here's the thing, pasta, this flour and water, it doesn't really taste like much. Everybody's had this one French fry and it wasn't seasoned. It tastes like cardboard, because starches really trap these flavors. But if we season it, all the flavors will really come out. The thing about salt is you can never take salt away, and everybody's palates are different. But if you use the right amount of salt, it helps your tongue find a beautiful balance.
Also the right kind of salt.
Yeah.
Some people don't know the difference between kosher salt and sea salt when they're cooking.
So sea salt's fine, kosher salt's fine. I think kosher is really good because it's economical. The granulars are nice. You can use it for a lot of things. But I have 10 different salts that I use. The only thing I have to say is that you always want to stay away from iodized salt. Everybody gets enough iodine nowadays, and iodized salt tastes really salty. People that don't like salt is because they're using iodized salt. You just want to use, a nice bit of salt. So we're just going to season it up. Wow, that much. Okay, and then we'll light this up. Okay, and we'll let that go on.
Gotcha.
Now we'll go to our vegetables. We're going to prepare our vegetables now. Whenever you prepare your vegetables, have a good sharp knife. Sharp knives are so much safer than dull ones. You can cut through things nicely.
That knife is beautiful.
Yeah, thank you. Damascus, Japanese, and Japanese knives are nice because they're thin, strong, it's like a razor. Okay, and also when we prep things, we want to work like an assembly. We don't want to have any wasted motions when we're doing it. So what we'll do is we'll take the corn and cut these parts off.
Gotcha.
These parts are off.
Now, how do we get all the silk out of the corn? Because people, when I was a kid, I had to haul corn on the front porch.
Yep.
And that was the bane of my existence, getting all that silk out.
Yeah, so I think that if you take a wet paper towel or a wet cloth towel, you can kind of run it down and try to get and also when you're peeling it, you can get a lot of it off when you're peeling it as well.
Now, can I do any of this?
Do you want to start peeling it down? Yeah, so let me show you. So I think what we were talking about before is if you can look here, and you can see the silk as you're peeling it.
Gotcha.
You can try to get a lot of it off
As you're coming
in that
down.
first step. Yeah, when you're first peel down. And just peel it. We'll put it right here and we'll cut it off.
Look at that. Never knew how to really peel it. Oh, no.
Nah, well, there's a million ways to do everything. It's like finding the right ways that work for you. You know, I think that's the
Gotcha.
thing about the kitchen. But what I usually do is I try to work, like I said, no waste motions. We'll do every step, and then we'll peel it all. And then after we peel it all, the other thing is that like these, you can dry them out, and you can make tamales. You can use them to flavor.
Oh, yeah.
You can just smoke. And this corn silk, like I'll save all my cobs. I'll save the corn silk. There's so much sugar in this. Like we were talking about the Parmesan rinds, but the corn, this is the bones of the corn. So if you really want to make a flavorful stock, you can make a really beautiful corn stock. Or if you're making a soup, you could soak your corn like in cream, make a corn cream that way. I've even made ice cream where it's like corn cob ice cream. What I do is I'll take the corn cobs, I'll char them up really nicely on the grill so it has like a nice smoky flavor. But, you know, you paid for it. You might as well use all of it. You might as well, you know. If you find corn that has a little, we'll just cut that part out, you know. It happens. It's a natural product.
And we have so much corn here. I
So
mean, it's
much
a great
corn.
season because we have so much corn.
They always say knee-high by the 4th of July. That's how you know it's going to be a good corn year. I also have, like, look at this.
Now, is there corn you should prefer?
Sweet corn tattoo
Hey,
right here.
is that
silk on
Silver
top.
Queen?
Yeah, you know. But is there corn I prefer? Well, I like the white corn. It's sweet. I like this is bicolor corn, white and yellow. So, I mean, I think if it's local and it's fresh, if you actually go down Robinsonville Road right here on Plantations.
You gonna say Freeman's?
Oh, well, yeah, they have just
We love Freeman's.
beautiful, beautiful corn, fresh and delicious. So that's, I think, the thing more so than anything is that you want to get as fresh corn as possible, and then you just want to like threaten it with heat. You just want to kind of
threaten it with
You
heat.
just want to whisper heat onto it. You know what I mean? And that's really how you're doing it right. So once we get our corn down, we'll cut all this corn off, and then
Gotcha.
we'll go to the tomatoes, the jalapenos, and the garlic. And then, so this is called, what we're doing right now is we're setting our mise en place. And what it means is that everything has a place, and everything's going to be in its place. Okay, so the next thing we're going to look at is the jalapenos, okay?
Hot, hot, hot.
Yeah, so if you're getting a really, really wet summer, the jalapenos will be less hot. But if it's really, really dry, and it's the jalapenos' defense mechanism is to be spicy. The other thing is that like we don't want this to be spicy. We really want their flavor. If we were making a sauce, we could just put the whole thing in whole or just lightly split it. But what we want to do is we want to, when we're cutting it, only
Avoid those seeds.
We want to avoid the seeds and the pith, and what we'll even do is we'll
Got the rib out? Gotcha.
cut the rib out, and we'll make this in a small dice. The next thing we want to look at is our garlic. The first thing you'll do, take your knife,
You're gonna smash the entire bulb?
smash it away. Well, this will just help us kind of get that first
Wow.
layer of skin off, and you can kind of take it here, like that. We just want
Who knew?
a piece of garlic.
Well,
That's
you
all we
knew.
want. I knew. Same thing here. See how that skin's on there? Gonna take it, lightly smash it at first. That light smash will just help us peel. That skin comes cleanly off. Then we'll look at the garlic. We'll get the little fibrous end off. And then the last thing what we'll do is we'll give it one more smash, like this. Okay? And we'll run our knife down it once. When you're using your chef knife, you want to make it a firm extension of your hand. Always make the claw, keep your fingers back. And we're just going to run it down one more time. That's all we really need, you know. We don't need to, the more we cut this, the spicier it's going to get. We're not going to use too much garlic. I was just in Italy in January and talking to some Italian chefs. They're like, man, you in America use way too much garlic. Like, you gotta like finesse the garlic, you know? They'll take a piece of garlic and rub it on a piece of toast for crostini.
Almost make a paste.
Or sometimes they'll fry up a garlic ball, a garlic clove, pull it out, and just use the essence of it. But, you know, here in America, we'll use a little bit of garlic. We'll use a little bit of garlic.
I
So,
love roasting my garlic and literally just, squeezing it out of the bulb and paste it.
yeah, when you roast garlic, it really defangs it. And the same thing, like, I'll take my garlic cloves and slowly poach them in olive oil and make garlic confit. That's a really great way.
Wow.
And the other thing is I make this sauce with like 50 cloves of garlic. And I'll take my garlic and I'll blanch it 8 times in water, changing the water out, and then I'll puree it up. And it's this beautiful, creamy, you have all the best notes of garlic without it being too spicy, so you can still make out later on, so it's not like garlic breath, it's just that nice. Okay, the next up is our tomatoes. These are summertime tomatoes. These are fresh from the garden. So if you see anything that you don't like, you can just use the tip of your knife and just kind of cut that part away. You don't need to use... Now, if we were making a sauce with this, what we would do is we would blanch it in the water first to make to get all the skin off of it. But this is just a fast summer rustic pasta, so we're not going to do that today.
Now, some people are afraid of heirloom tomatoes. They think they're ugly. They think they're hideous.
Yeah.
But we have to remind people that they are beautiful and they're supposed to look like that.
Yeah, so an heirloom is a seed which has been passed down from generation to generation. And doing this, they're not all going to be the same. They're going to be beautiful and perfect. And that's what you want. It's that diversity is what makes them beautiful. And heirlooms are also when you get a tomato, if you cut it, then you can refrigerate it. Because if you can't leave it out on the counter, once it's cut, it'll go bad faster. But as soon as you refrigerate a tomato, all of its essence will be taken away. So you want to make sure that you're keeping your tomatoes out, letting them get really nice and ripe. Yeah, but the heirloom skins are really, really thin sometimes. So you want to use them quick, once they're ripe. Okay, so what we'll do here, we're going to do a quick dice. And when you dice, you can take your knife. See, if you didn't have a sharp knife, you wouldn't be able to cut that tomato nicely that way. But we'll take them here, we'll stack this up here, and we'll do the same thing here.
Beautiful.
Okay, and turn it.
So we talked about the boys earlier.
Yes.
We're moving into some new digs.
Yes, yeah, new house.
Congratulations.
I'm going to be a couple miles away from here, but I'm really excited. I'll have really close access to water, and for every person I know that signs a little piece of paper, I'll be able to put 2 crab pots in. I'm gonna go out in my little kayak, drop some crab pots. I might invite you over for a crab feast sometime
my dad
soon,
and we crab every summer. That's a bonding thing for us.
And do you do the chicken neck in, or what technique do you?
Yeah, we literally, dude, we go completely old school. We literally string up some chicken, we throw it out. We have conversation with the net, and we scoop it.
You gotta whisper to them. You gotta whisper to the crabs.
Whisper gently.
So I got a good trick. Okay, you take a can of Friskies cat food.
Gotcha.
Just lightly crack it and drop that down there, and all that oil goes through the water, and you know that those crabs will be attracted to it. And that's my favorite thing: going on a bridge, dropping the crab, netting them up. It was nothing was better, So the blue crabs are sweet and nice. I've only picked crabs a couple times this summer, but last night I picked some, and I like to take all of the crabs that you don't eat. Maybe you have 6 or 5 or a couple left over, and I like to make a traditional crab gravy where
my grandmother used to make a she crab
soup or sauce
gravy. She'd make a she crab soup, and she'd make this she crab gravy. Amazing.
Okay, so this is fresh pasta. It only takes a minute to cook. So we'll cook that in a minute. Right now we gotta saute our vegetables. Our vegetables are gonna give us texture, life, and they're gonna help create the sauce as well.
Layers, baby, layers.
Always, always, always. So when you're sauteing any vegetable or doing anything, you wanna lay your foundation. People said to me one time, hey Hari, why do we use so much garlic in cooking? Well, garlic is the foundation of a recipe. You have to have a really strong foundation to build all the other flavors on. So if we're building a house, the garlic's the foundation. Also, what we're gonna do now is when you're, okay, so what we're gonna do is before you put anything in a pan, you always wanna preheat your pan. If you put things in your pan when your pan's cold, you'll have dead spots here, so you always need to preheat it. And we'll just add a nice, this olive oil is gonna be the sauce. The fat helps all the flavor distribute on your palate. So you have to use a good amount of olive oil, not too much. And then we're letting this preheat. We don't want our garlic to burn, but we want it to be nice and hot when it goes in. So we just kind of want it lightly caramelized. A couple other ingredients we're going to use today is, this is a Japanese ingredient called shiokoji. It's a liquid that gives deep kind of umami flavor, which I really like. Also, we can use one or the other, but this is called Coloratura de Alicia. This is from the wedding of the sardines. This is like a fish sauce from Italy, where fish sauce is, and then
Not a traditional Asian fish sauce.
and then this one is a traditional Asian fish sauce.
Gotcha.
This one is called Red Boat. You can buy this in the grocery store. I really like this one. It's from Vietnam. This tastes like liquid fishy prosciutto. It's really good.
Nice.
And we don't want this to taste fishy. We just want to give enough depth, enough essence of it. So our pan's nice and hot now. We'll add a little bit of garlic.
Yeah, and I love to use fish sauce on my vegetables. So my green beans, I love to just
Yeah.
toss them in a little bit of a fish sauce or oyster sauce.
Oh, oyster sauce is delicious
especially.
as well. So with fish sauce, the thing that I really like about it is like it. If you're using it in meat recipes or even in vegetable recipes, it'll make your meat taste meatier. It'll give a foil against the flavor. Same
Nice.
thing your vegetables are really push for. So right here, we want to keep that moving. We see this. We see it starting. And this is what I'm saying. We're going to cook with all our senses. We're going to look at our eyes, our smell, and our sound, and we can tell it's really going now. That's the sound that you want to hear. That nice sizzle.
Yeah,
Also,
you have to be careful because garlic, it goes really fast.
it can burn really quickly.
Ton of real
So when we cook, we season in layers, and like we're gonna put just this much salt in right now. What that salt's gonna do is like we don't want to just add the salt at the end, and we don't want it to be too salty. But a little bit of salt pulls moisture out and really helps the flavors concentrate down.
Now, the true salt adds flavor, but pepper changes the flavor.
Yeah, so salt doesn't really add flavor, but like you see this tattoo right here.
Gotcha.
Salt is this black outline around this radish that helps us see this radish. That's the salt. It helps our tongue see the colors in our mind, you know? Your palate has natural salinity, and when you add the right amount of salt, you're electrically charging and balancing it so your brain can taste it more. Okay, so now the jalapenos, like again, these aren't too hot, just a little bit of back spice. You see the garlic, it hasn't caramelized yet, but it's singing to me, and I can see it, so we're gonna add a little bit of jalapeno. Again, we don't want it to be spicy, but we just want to get a nice little flavor going on, you know? Many different cultures, you make a sofrito or, do different things, but in this we're making a nice base. Okay, so I'm looking at this.
We need smell-o-vision. This smells
Oh,
amazing.
that's my favorite. One of my favorite parts about cooking is that you're able to, it awakens all the senses. Okay, this is frying up really nicely, not caramelized yet. Now we're gonna add our corn. Again, we're just gonna cook this corn for a second to start to break it down. It's sweet, local, nice, fresh corn. We don't need to do much to it.
Now, we're going to cook it long enough for the sugars to start breaking down, or we just want to cook it long enough to just give it some heat and...
Yeah, we want to heat it through. We don't want to make it mushy. We want that texture of that corn.
Okay.
So I'm gonna give it a couple tosses. People are like, oh, I'm intimidated to do this, but it's a really easy, it's just a wrist motion. You're just going back with your wrist.
And that color's amazing.
Yeah, it's smelling good. Okay, right now we're doing this on about medium high, but it's okay. But like this dish, I was talking to somebody recently and he said, if we don't fully digest corn, why do we eat it? And I think it's because it's this American ingredient. It's indigenous to this country. Like when I was talking to Mom Lucille, and the recipe that I wrote about was a corn succotash. And I was like, do you use garlic in your succotash? She's like, never garlic, never garlic.
No.
And she said she had a really, really simple one. She is African American and Nanacoke Indian, local Indian. And she said, we used whole beans if we had them.
Yes.
We used onions, love lots of onions, fresh corn, tomato to finish. But she kept it really, really simple. But she said also, if she had a ham bone, or she made some ham water out of it. She made her own quick stock that way. She'd add that in as well. So I'm looking at this and I'm using my sentences. I don't want it to go too hot. So I'm gonna just turn it down to about a medium high because I don't want anything to burn and I just want it to kind of get the sugars going, break it down a little bit. Okay, now that corn looks really, really good, we're gonna add our tomatoes. And you can see these tomatoes are already letting go of their juice. We want these tomatoes to break down. This sauce is a really simple sauce of olive oil, all the vegetables, and pasta water, and we're going to use the starches of the pasta to just emulsify everything. A good pasta is dressed like a nice salad, where all the dressing's not in the bowl leaking out, or it's not too dry either. You want it to be just beautifully evenly dressed. So
Now, would you make this at chef's table?
yeah.
What's a go-to dish for you on a regular schmegular weeknight?
Yeah.
What's a go-to for you?
So I have 3 young boys that we talk about, but when I cook for them, sometimes I'll make things that are more simple for them. There's this pasta dish called olio di peperoncino, which means garlic and olive oil, midnight pasta. I'll often make that, but it's just really how I'm feeling. Again, another pizza sauce. I mean, this we would serve at the chef's table. I mean, if we're pairing with a dish that we're doing or pairing with something, then we would definitely do it. So you see that? That's kind of like a succotash right there, right? No pole beans, but and we're just kind of getting these things going. Now, at this point in time, I'm going to turn that pan down. I want those tomatoes just to kind of lightly break down, but we're going to focus on our pasta next. Okay, so our water's already seasoned. We have it up to a boil, but what we'll do is we'll pull off the pot.
That is a rolling boil.
Yeah, you really want it rolling, and you want it when you add your pasta, you want it to naturally kind of turn and go around. Okay, so like I said, this pasta cooks really, really quick, so we need to be on our toes.
Like 2, 3?
Like a minute.
Okay.
Like a minute. And the other thing is like things continue to cook once they're in here, once they're on the plate. It's called carryover cooking. So we're gonna cook this. It'll never be al dente to the tooth. This is fresh pasta. It should be really silky, but I'm gonna cook it for a minute. We'll take it out, we'll sauce it up, and we'll be there. So
Now, Chef, what are we seeing innovatively in the kitchens? Like, what new technologies are we seeing beyond, like, you know, some people think sous vide is a new phenomenon, but
Yeah.
I'm in the islands a lot. I split my time between here and in the islands. St. Martin is very big on gastronomic cooking.
Yes.
So what are you seeing, and what are you kind of bringing to the chef's table to introduce people to?
yeah, so I've worked with some of the most innovative companies in the world as far as their technology, and a lot of this technology is in how we cook and hold things. So I have this oven. It's from Italy. The company is E02, and this company it's called a combi oven. This oven cooks with any degree of steam, because cooking is controlling water, it's controlling caramelization. This oven can grill, fry, steam. It has smart technology, so it tells you exactly when things are cooking and what's happening.
How do we get one?
Well, you can go online. You can, holler at me. No, we can go online and get it that way. Or the other thing you can do is you can. The other thing they make is something that it's called the Iverio, and this is a thing that once things are cooked, it perfectly holds your food. It's called a hot refrigerator, so it's holding it perfectly.
Nice.
All right, so this pasta is done. Like we just been cooking it for a minute, but you look at those noodles.
That is gorgeous.
Yeah, a beautiful, and that's what we want to do. We're going to continue to cook them in this
Sauce is going to carry over.
into the sauce. Everything's going to carry over, and you see, we extruded this pasta through a bronze die, and when you have a bronze die, you have a micro texture, which allows some of that starch to come off. And when that starch comes off, that's what we want. We want that pasta water right here. You know, my mom and dad, they used to take the pasta and like rinse it off. You really want that
I use
nice.
mine to stick in my sauce.
Yeah, you really want that starchy water to help you get this. It's a temporary emulsion of all the fats that are in the pan, but also like we want this temporary emulsion to coat everything, and we want it all stick and get really, really nice and beautiful. I liked it when my dad cooked pasta when we were younger, spaghetti. He'd always take a piece of spaghetti, done when he threw it at the roof, and it would stick to the roof. And he would always say, it's done now. I'm like, all right, Dad, throw another piece. Can I throw a piece? But, okay, so we'll turn this water off. Okay, So the next thing we're going to do, like, if you don't have these in cooking, these are a really great thing. Because
now, can you tell people what they are?
Yeah, so these are cooking tweezers, you know? Sometimes when you think,
tweezers,
when you have, like, these big tweezers, they trap stuff, and this you can be really, really accurate with what you're doing. So right now, what I'm doing is I'm going to turn my heat back up because I really want this to be well incorporated, well emulsified. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to add this cheese. Well, actually, this is our Parmigiano Reggiano. We're going to add a little bit in the actual pasta, and then we'll add a little bit in the actual to garnish, to finish the dish as well. Because it's really important for us to finish the dish so it's beautiful, it's very tasty, but this again, it has that natural umami. This is a really hard aged cheese, and it's going to give you lots and lots of depth.
Now, what's a good hard aged cheese that people can kind of get locally here that won't set them back to, they won't need to take a mortgage out?
Yeah. So if you're cooking, I think that I think Parmigiano Reggiano is the king. You could buy it right at Touch of Italy, but I think if you're using, you can get a pecorino that has more like the sheep's milk. But even if you're at a store, Grana Padano is really good as well as a hard kind of finishing cheese. It just depends on But I think that honestly, the undisputed king of cheeses is Parmigiano Reggiano. So if you see this right here, I can still see some of this. See how it kind of looks starchy and nice? So I'm just going to let this cook a little bit longer. And I'm going to start tossing it now. And this tossing is allowing all the corn to be really beautifully well integrated. And all the tomatoes is really broken down. You have that nice beautiful red hue. And I'm just kind of letting that go here. And like, this is what I want. See how it was like really saucy before? It's still cooking right now. And as it cooks, that moisture is going to kind of reduce out of it. The flavors are going to concentrate. And then another thing I'm going to do, like a nice kind of Eastern Shore ingredient. There's no crabs in here, but I think the corn and the Old Bay will add just a little Old Bay, you know. We're not cooking any bland food. We really want it to be spiced nice, you know. So then again,
we're using, you know, local ingredients, but we were having conversation earlier with regard to art and food, and exposing children specifically to ingredients that you wouldn't normally find locally. I know we talk a lot about farm to table, but how important is it to source and kind of like just play around with ingredients that you wouldn't necessarily normally find locally?
Yeah. So I think the thing is that you know, I've gone into a lot of different schools and stuff, and I think the first stage is demystifying. I think little kids are open to it if you let them try it young. Kids have never seen arugula, something I take for granted every day. But you know, once they taste it, it's a lettuce, and then like they'll taste it once, they'll cook it, and I think that like when you expose them to any ingredients that they haven't seen, I think it's just such a growing and learning experience. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is we're just going to finish these pastas up. The pasta's perfectly done. We want to eat it while it's nice and hot, but we want to get our garnishes out here. We're going to we'll put a little bit more cheese on it.
You can never have enough cheese. I'm a cheesy boy.
No, you cannot. And then like we'll put maybe another little dash of Old Bay on the top so you get a little visual here. We also have some, this is called brown butter crumb or caramelized milk solids. This is where I took powdered milk and I fried it up in brown butter. So it'll give you like a nice kind of, smell like it's like a buttery, nutty crunch, which is really nice.
It smells amazing. It smells almost like a praline-y, caramelly.
Yeah.
It smells amazing.
For sure. I love toasted milk solids. And then this is, you know, basil and tomato or something go so well together, but this is Thai basil, so it has a little more anise flavor. And then these are growing out in my pots right in my front yard. This is called red ribbon sorrel. It has oxalic acid a little bit, so it tastes like
it's very Caribbean actually.
Yeah.
Very Caribbean.
Oh, for sure. Now for the plating and the tasting, the most important part, right? So before we serve anything to anybody else, we got to taste it. We got to make sure it's delicious. Okay, so let me just give it a little. Now I'm tasting this for seasoning. If I adjust it,
It smells perfect.
Man, the seasoning's perfect. Everything's fresh, crunchy, and beautiful. I should do this for a living. No, I'm good at this. No, but
talk about your options.
Yes. So, okay. So now we're gonna use our big tweezers here. I'm gonna go get your portion size that you want. See how beautifully that's sauced. Then we're gonna give it a nice little twirl here.
It's gorgeous, gorgeous. Look at the technique. Technique.
I'm gonna take it right here.
That is how you do it.
Okay. And like this is perfectly sauced. I'm gonna do it here as well. Thank you. Same thing. Get my noodles.
That is a major. Oh my God, it smells amazing.
Okay. And then the last thing we'll do is we'll get our spoon here. We'll take some of our chunkier ingredients.
Gotcha.
I'm gonna put those out here. So this is just a taste of summer. You know, all the things I love about summer are in this bowl. That's sweet corn, tomato, a little spiced jalapeno.
Okay. And we got our finishers.
So yeah, a little bit of cheese on top.
Cheese.
Nice light layer.
Cheese.
Another layer of seasoning.
Nice. And that adds that complex, nutty,
a microplane
richness to it.
Yeah,
Love it.
Yep. And then same thing here. Now we're gonna add a little bit of this brown butter crumb.
Now, Chef, what made you even conceive of brown butter crumbing?
You know, it's a technique it's used, but I love what in brown butter, the caramelized milk solids that are on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
To me, it's like it gives a nice light layer of caramelization on top of a dish.
Versus like
a nice
bread
nuttiness.
crumbs.
Yeah, you can make crumbs out of a lot of things. I make a cocoa crumb, which is just like a savory crumb just from the cocoa.
Are you serious?
It's awesome as well. So again, then we're gonna add a little bit of this Thai basil.
Beautiful.
The top of the Thai basil has the most oils and essential oils and aromatics. And then like even these, like this is like the flower or the bud of the Thai basil. Like use it all. And like we don't add anything onto a dish that's not gonna enhance the dish. There's a rule of cooking. If it doesn't add to it, it's gonna take away from it.
Yeah.
And this is like the little green pop, the smell of this anise, like what's better than tomato and basil? So
I've been eating at a lot of places, and I'm seeing a lot of edible flowers in food.
yeah. I think they have their place. I think that as long as they're not just something that's there to be pretty, if they make it delicious, then I think that's what it should do. Like if it's there just for the look, I'd say keep it all. But that's my personal opinion. You know, it's like every chef when you're in your kitchen or at your restaurant, you got to make your own decisions to make food beautiful. So again, this is that red sorrel I was talking about before. A nice pop of tartness. It has like a beautiful lemony flavor. And I think we're almost there. A little more Old Bay. A little seasoning, a little pepper, a little salt. I think it's there, man.
I'm gonna grab. I believe this is you.
Thank you so much.
I believe this is me.
Beautiful.
Vintage.
Welch's.
Pure Welch's.
Yeah. Well, it's a
For
good.
me.
I heard it's a good year. It's a good year.
It's a good year.
Non-vintage.
2024.
NV. All right, let's taste.
Nice.
So, the smell, the look. I think it's all there.
Okay, I'm gonna just.
Dig in.
I'm going in. I'm sure someone's grandmother in Italy right now is dying because of the way I just scooped this up.
No, I don't think there's a wrong way to eat pasta.
That is amazing.
Deep, well seasoned, creamy.
Complex but easy.
Got all the textures. Yeah.
God.
Definitely a taste of summer.
Yeah. What is it? And how do I replace my blood with it?
Well, I don't know that. I'm only a chef, so.
That is absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
So, is this in your repertoire now? You cooked in this?
Dude,
Or?
every second you were taking, I was clearly recording. It was
Right.
just, you know.
Like I say, like even if it's not this, you could simply use a little bit of olive oil and garlic. You could use one of the ingredients, whatever you have, you can really throw into it. And like, I don't think pastas have to be this heavy sauce thing. I think they can just be like fresh. It's about the noodles. You can buy box pasta. Box pasta is perfectly acceptable. You can buy mafaldi, spaghetti, or whatever shape you love. And then I think it's all about the technique of cooking your pasta right, saucing it up in the pan, getting it nice and creamy. Like you look
Just
here,
taking your time and loving it.
Yeah, putting love into it for sure.
This is amazing. So, where can we find you next? What are you doing next? I hate this part because this is the part where we have to end it. But
Yeah.
I mean, just where can we find you? What are you doing? How do we access you?
So I'll have a food conversation with anybody for free. Hit me up on Instagram at Haricam, HARICAM. I have a consulting business. So in this consulting business, I create food products that go to market. I work with restaurants and help their menus creatively. I just got a new consulting job where I'll be working in upstate New York where it's a filled bagel. So I'm going to drive to upstate. They already have filled bagels, and I'm going to be coming up with new flavors there. So sometimes I'm at trade shows. I give classes across the country. Here in Rehoboth, if you're here, you can definitely come check out the Chef's Table. I cook private events. I do a lot of international nonprofit work with the CARE organization and with local organizations as well. So really, if you're in Rehoboth, you're bound to. It's a big small area. You're bound to run into me, but find me on Instagram at Haricam and go to the Chef's Table to see some classes and events that we're doing. And really, just if you see me out, say hi and give me a call. I'm like, it's a great place here in Southern Delaware where I only have friends, and it's great to hang out with you, spend some time as my new friend. So.
Neighbor,
yeah, right around the corner for sure.
Well, it was a pleasure having you, Chef.
Thank you so
Seriously,
much.
appreciate it.
My
I look
pleasure.
forward to eating at your table again. This is it for us today, guys. So amazing, Chef Hari Cameron. This is Dev Martell. Thank you guys for stopping in, taking the time to listen to us. Dev Martell, where every conversation matters and every perspective is respected. Go to www.devmartell.com for our other shows. You can catch us on Buzzsprout, on our YouTube channel, Apple Podcasts, Spotify. You dig through it fast enough, we're there.
I'm going to be checking it out. I can't wait.
Of course.
Can't wait to see all the conversations.
No doubt.
Thank you
All
so
right,
much
thanks
again.
We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, guys.